Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hashtag 135. I'm your host, Alexis Appleby, and with me today that's Mr. Craig Blayett.
Squealing over here.
Squealing laughing.
I thought that song was somebody in a rocking chair rocking on a squeaky toy.
How is that? I mentioned that we should have some type of Irish song. How does that qualify as an Irish song, Mr.
Yeah,
Clark?
I want to know.
Well, the gentleman that sings that had a tattoo that was kind of
Celtic
similar to,
Interesting.
There's a stretch there. But
It was a pretty big stretch.
so Mr.
well,
Bland's song.
maybe we should look at the lyrics.
I want to know the lyrics.
Jump around.
Because I didn't know they had any ties to...
Seriously, where would you, when I recommended that we, play or open the show with a Irish song in honor of St. Patrick's Day, that you would come up with "Jump Around" of all songs?
Well, I just remember the video was seemed like they were in like a pub, and
Fancy ways.
so I'm trying to make that connection there. I don't know. That's what came to my mind.
Okay, so while Mr. Clark is looking up the lyrics to House of Pain, we do have another guest on the show today. We have Mrs. Kelly Schwartz. She is the 8th grade English language arts teacher. And how are you today, Ms. Schwartz?
I'm fine. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I know. You actually said yes. You weren't sure about it. Some people, they're so hesitant.
First I said, me?
You're like, little old me? Like, yes, we want you on the show. And in fact, Mrs. Schwartz, how long have you been in the district?
This is my 25th year in this district. I had 1 year in Mount Vernon.
Okay. And then you taught at which schools? Because I know they're all different now.
Okay, my first year was in Horace Mann in Mount Vernon.
Oh, yeah.
No longer there.
Yeah, that's it.
Then I was at Schiller for 5 years. Worked for Don Reitnauer and
I forgot about that.
Jack Deeby.
Was Mr. Brashear at Horseman? When you...
Yes, he was.
Cool.
He was a hoot.
Yes.
He taught me a lot, though.
Was he a teacher?
He was the principal.
Oh, he was the principal.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
He was my principal when I was in grade school.
Was
Oh,
he
really?
really?
Yeah, and he and my mom shared rides to school.
Which school was that?
In Wayne City.
Oh, in Wayne City.
So you were always on your best behavior because of that?
I was always on my best behavior all the time because my mom was a teacher. So
Yeah, you were more scared of your mom than him.
yes, and she was going to find out whatever I did because it was a small school. So.
I can relate to that.
I can also relate to that. Yes.
And
Okay, so then I went to Jordan
For a long time.
for a long time. Tim Brannon hired me, and then a few years later, Mr. Bland came in. We had three superintendents while I was there. Yes,
At least.
because Hawkins, because Griffin retired the year that I left Schiller.
And then there was
And
Mr.
then
Hawkins.
and then Rademacher,
Or Rademacher.
and then Mr. Clark. Yep,
all right.
long time.
A lot of
And
superintendents.
Then this is my first year at the junior high.
Gotcha. And Kelly, we can't go without talking about this. Kelly mentioned something about Mr. Bland 30 years ago.
No.
He's scared.
It's good. No, it's good. So Kelly, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well,
See if he remembers.
I just said that I've known him a long time and that he sang in my wedding. And
Yes,
it will
I
be
did.
Oh, so you did
30
remember.
years. I remember
30
that.
years ago, and it'll be 30 years in February.
Do you remember what song it was?
For 3.
There were 3.
It was House of Pain.
No, it was not House of Pain.
Jump around.
It was with Wendy, though,
Yes,
wasn't it?
it was with Wendy.
So I remember that.
So it's love songs, I assume.
Two.
There were
Some classics.
Well, 2 I remember.
What were
for
they?
Sure. Endless Love.
Endless
and
Love. That
Just
was
You and I.
Yes.
Those were really popular.
I remember
but
those.
There was a third. I'm not sure.
I can't remember.
It was at the end.
Is this recorded anywhere?
Yeah.
Oh,
VHS.
we need to bring
Okay,
that in.
that brings up a great question. How many times have you watched your wedding since you got married? Exactly.
0.
Whoa, they've changed it up now. So videography is real big now, right? So now they make them to like social media clips. So I've got a clip of 3 minutes for my wedding that kind of encompasses.
that's awesome.
That way you'll actually watch it, because if it's 3 hours long,
Yeah, you're not going to
you're
watch
not going to
that.
watch it again. And then my longer video clip, that's kind of, everything. It was only maybe 16 minutes, because nobody wants to watch.
No one wants to see.
You might do it once or twice,
I
but you're not going to keep doing it. But the social media clip was really what sold me on it, because it's a 3-minute video
Right.
that kind of puts everything
It
together.
was a VHS. I mean, they're.
Oh, my parents.
Do you know where
yeah,
it's
they
at?
had it.
I do know where it's at. I do
Well,
know
that's
where it's
good.
at. When we moved to gosh, that was a long time ago too. But when we moved, I found it, and so then I put it in I have like a hope chest that my grandma gave me, so it's in there.
Do you still have a
You
VHS
need to
player?
get it fixed onto some kind of new,
Like a CD?
digital, and
thought
put it
about
in
that.
there. That way, your grandkids and their all that.
I have probably 20 boxes of VHS tapes,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not just like movies and stuff. It's stuff that I had done, when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
That I would like.
You
to
need
put,
to get them.
I would like to put it together
Before
onto
that?
one.
I like.
Would they burn it onto a CD, or what would
You
they? Or would
can.
they put it onto a.
You can buy them
Flash drive
online.
or-
Actually, you could probably do both, but I know online they have it to where you can convert it to a CD or DVD.
But you
whichever
can't
one.
even use those anymore.
Well, you might be able to, right?
I mean, what would be the new method if you're
some
not using?
kind
We're not
of
using
digital.
Yeah.
I mean, like in a cloud format or something.
I guess you're right. You would have to get it on.
I can just remember the VCR tape getting caught in the machine.
Yes.
And the cassette tapes in your car.
We had this movie that we really liked, is the Goofy movie, and my sister took it out and ripped it to shreds, like the whole VHS. We were so upset by that. I don't know if you guys watched it.
See, it
but
was
we
a
really
thrill
liked that
though, and
movie.
Kelly can relate to this. Like when we were younger, like to have a cassette player in your car. I think I had one installed in my car.
I did too.
Because I didn't have one originally, but that was such a big deal. And then we look at that now and think, and I've got boxes of
cassettes
cassette
too?
tapes too that I don't know what I would
Because you
ever
don't want to
do
get rid
with.
of them.
No,
It's
I'm not sure I have anything to play them on now though.
it's keepsakes, like you said.
My dad does.
Does he?
And 8 tracks. If you want to try 8 tracks, my dad has that too.
Oh,
Wow.
and it still works.
Yeah.
And does he still use it too?
No.
No.
Well, he probably would if I could. Yeah.
Get it going for him.
That's funny.
Oh, what a stroll down.
But speaking
memory
of
lane.
technology, Mrs. Schwartz is very good with technology.
Really?
She has remained up to date with her technology
Thank
skills.
you. I try.
Yes.
Well, elaborate on that. Were you the tech support in Jordan
Well, I
too?
sort
Yeah,
of
she was one of the
Yeah.
Yes.
go-to people that we went to when.
Mr. Ford and Mrs. Witzel and I went to the
that's
ICE
right.
conference 2 different times. It was fantastic.
That was in Chicago.
One of the best conferences I've ever been to.
Really?
And we learned a lot. But now I will say, being with junior high kids, I think they probably have me beat. I mean, there'll be times I'll be like, oh, I don't. And then
How'd you do that? And they
one
just
of the
tell
kids
you.
will be like, oh, you do this. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay.
They're a little quicker on
Thanks. Let me write that down.
it. That's because they grew up with cell phones, so that's just nothing for
Right.
them.
Well, it's like the Promethean boards and stuff, just like things that I didn't do with
bells and
second
whistles,
graders.
yeah.
Well, things I didn't do with second graders that during COVID, the 8th graders, well, they were 6th grade then, but they all learned to do. And I mean, we didn't do that with second graders.
I
So
can see that.
they know a lot. They really do. I mean, it's impressive, really.
And you probably had some of them before.
I actually wrote that down. I have 3. I only have 3
Really?
that I had in second grade.
Oh, really?
And then I have Rory Lambert, Jackson Hancock, and Noah Williams.
Noah Williams.
In my classes. And it's so fun to just, and they'll remember things like from
That is kind of neat.
second grade. And it's fun. Yeah, it's fun that we banter back and forth sometimes.
And they look exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I had one kid, which I didn't have him, Mrs. Everskirt did. And one of the first weeks of school, and I mean, it was so different for me. Everything was so different. He comes up, he goes, Mrs. Schwartz. And I was looking up at him instead of down. And I was like, hi. He goes, you don't remember me? I said, oh, I do. I know your face. I said, you were in Miss Everskirt's room. He goes, it's me, Michael. He goes, I can't believe I look the same. I go, Michael, you didn't have a mustache when you were
And you were way shorter than you are now.
oh yeah, I guess you're right. So that's one of the big differences. Or one kid, Caleb, specifically, he was in Everskirt's class too. I can just remember his big brown eyes looking up at me, all like when we would switch and do like RTI stuff. And now I have to look up at him really high.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's funny.
I'm still shocked that only 3 though that you had.
I have. I see the other ones.
Right, you see them.
I see a lot of them, but those are the only 3 that I had in my homeroom at Jordan that I have in my classes at the junior high.
And what are you teaching at the junior high?
Language arts.
Just language arts to
8th grade.
8th grade. 8th grade. Okay.
Yeah, it's fun.
How is that different from going from 2nd grade was what you taught before?
2nd grade.
Now to
it's not as different as I thought it was going to be.
Really?
It's really not. I get really attached to kids really quickly. Mm-hmm. So in 2nd grade, I would get really attached to 20, and now I'm really attached to 60. Mm-hmm. But they're fun, and I love them just the same. It's really fun, and I like to see their growth. Mm-hmm. You know, in 2nd grade, when they leave you, you don't know how well they read. You don't know. And I told my friends at Jordan, I said, I can guarantee you, even though we worried about, these certain kids, every one of them can read. I promise.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Everyone is reading. Like,
that's good.
Even though you have those certain kids you worry about, it's amazing to see that big of a growth.
That's great.
And a lot of the teachers will say, well, how about this kid? That's fun too. Like the teachers at Jordan will call and be like, well, how's this kid? And how's this kid? Or it's fun to, kind of.
And that's why it's hard to base a kid's growth on some random yearly test instead of looking individually. And I think the state's finally starting to get that. They're talking about the districts creating their own assessments to show where the kid, instead of just a one size fits all.
Well, because it's stressful for kids. Some kids get anxiety over tests, so you're doing it one time versus.
And it's not a true representation.
No, it's not, because isn't it timed too?
Yes, and I was going to say, if
next week
you do anything timed, it puts
panic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even if you're making a sandwich, and I said, well, you only have 30 seconds.
I was the last person to finish it. Now, believe it or not,
I was
the last person to finish any kind of test all throughout my educational career.
I 100% believe that.
Even in graduate school, people would walk out and I'm still writing, and they're like, "What is this problem?" But I had.
Did you take your time?
I took my time.
No, the first 30 minutes he was squirrel. He didn't even know there was a test.
What is it?
Here's the fun fact, though. This is my 26th year of teaching. Mm-hmm. Now, we did have the ITBS my first 4 years. I have never given an IAR test. I never gave ISAT. I've never done it. So I'm a little bit nervous. I mean, I don't know what to expect.
You'll be fine.
I mean, I just
now it's not paper and pencil anymore either.
Right. Whatever Danielle tells me I'm doing, that's what I'm doing. She's like, you're going to do this, 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 and this. So I've kind of got it figured out.
Forgot about that.
I totally didn't know that it's not paper, but that makes sense. They do everything on their Chromebooks now.
I explained this last night a little bit when I gave my board presentation that, for the little ones, it is very difficult for them to, even though, as Mrs. Schwartz said, these kids are very knowledgeable with technology, but like there are for certain situations, like if a kid wants to go back and check an answer, they're not always allowed to go back.
Really?
And correct something. Once they move on, then they're done.
You can't go back either.
I was the teacher that always said, "Go back and check your work." Go back. But now you have to say, "Go slowly and take your time," because you may not be able to go back.
Slowly and take your time, but you only got 40 seconds left.
That would
do it fast.
That would send panic into me too. That would make me nervous.
That makes me nervous, and I can't. You can't answer any questions, and so that's going to be really hard.
I remember the teacher would always put like 15 minutes left, and I'd be like, and I'd be counting pages like 10 minutes left.
Yeah. You're like, I'm going to have a stroke over here.
Yeah.
Oh, those poor kids. Oh, I didn't know that. Because back in the day, it was on paper, so you could always go back and look at your answers. And if it was fill in the blank, you could erase it and go back.
And the question I always had, why did they have that crazy elephant with the flag in its trunk that said, "Don't write on this page"? Because that was just a huge temptation to color.
I want to write on this page.
I want to color that elephant. Yeah.
I want to color the
elephant. What shall I draw?
Yes.
Anyway, Mrs. Schwartz, did you know you always wanted to be a teacher?
Well, I knew I wanted to be a teacher or a nurse.
Oh, okay.
And I worked for a doctor's office when I was going to KC. Mm-hmm. And I was teetering back and forth. And unfortunately, he got really sick and was no longer with us. Mm-hmm. And then I had to make a decision. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then I did decide to go into teaching,
didn't know
and I'm
that.
glad I did. And I mean, it flew by. I can't believe I've been teaching 26 years.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
That's a good thing if it's
It's
flying
weird.
because you're having fun.
But it's weird. I mean, I remember being the baby in the district, like, and now I'm like, whoa, what happened?
Yeah.
Now people come to you for advice and things.
They do.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they do.
Yeah, because if you've taught for a
It's
while,
fun.
you know
Yeah.
a lot more than the first year, second year, even third and fourth year teachers that are here.
I even get a few phone calls from the third graders this year. Their teachers will be like, well, so-and-so wants to talk to you. So
That's awesome. That's awesome.
they call me occasionally, and I give them a little pep talks.
That's cool.
Make sure they're doing good.
Yes.
That's the hard part about our district is that with the different buildings, you don't always see those kids progress throughout. And I know Mr. Clark has always said to me, you got to get to the junior high. You got to go over there and see those kids. And like I was there recently for some trainings. And I mean, what a neat feeling, those kids coming up and, excited to see you.
It really
and,
is.
But you don't, a lot of times I don't see those kids again until graduation.
Right.
So
You're pretty popular on TikTok too. I just wanted to say that. I get a lot
I'm
of
on
kids.
TikTok.
Well, any of the videos we posted for social media, there is a lot of kids that comment about Mr. Bland on the,
I'm not
and
on
it's
TikTok,
good. No,
so-
it's good. So if you're ever
Okay.
on it, you'll get to see. You probably see because you're on TikTok, right?
I don't get on a lot, but yeah.
Right.
Are you on TikTok?
No.
I only have the
I
school
watched it
TikTok.
once and kind of got addicted to it, and then I thought I can't do
Oh,
this.
I go in a rabbit hole. Like, I can't get.
Like I watched it one day, and I'm like, I can't stop watching these videos, and so I took it off my phone. No, I can't do this.
I just have it for the school, so when I post something, that's when. But I'll see some comments, and there was one we did a video of you singing. That was a popular one, and I think
Singing.
their kids. It was
Oh yeah.
it was at the beginning
saw
or
that.
the end of last school year.
Oh, living on a prayer. Or something
Yes,
like that?
yeah, but
Okay.
there was a lot of students, and I think there are kids that used to go here. I don't know if there are still kids that are actually in our district, which I've noticed that a lot. It's people that have already moved on and not even in the district
see, and
anymore.
like at the age that Mrs. Schwartz and I are at right now, we have the students, their parents, their grandparents that we've taught. So it's just a whole.
Yeah, last year was my first time though. I had a student, and we do that poster where you put your age and your birthday and your
Who am I,
favorites,
or-
and this one particular student, I put my age. He goes, "You're as old as my granny." I said, "Wait a minute, who's your granny?" And he told me, and I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
She was in my class. And I said, "Who's your mom?" And he told me, and I said, "I taught your mom in first grade at Schiller." So that was my first with that, but that's
Kind of
pretty cool.
interesting. Yeah.
It is. It's pretty cool. And like one thing difference about Jordan and the junior high, we had Bland Bucks.
Oh,
at
yeah.
Jordan,
Yes.
And we have Tiger Bucks for the first half of the year. I'm like, if you'll do this, I'll give you a Bland
Bland
Buck.
Buck.
Finally, when a kid goes, "What am I going to do with a Bland Buck?" I'm like, I mean a Tiger Buck. A Tiger Buck. Read
just
my
go
mind.
down to Jordan and you can go spend it when you get
Read
there.
my mind.
Oh, they got a cool store at Jordan. So
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
We set one up in the office, and Nurse Tricia and
Cool.
Patty run the store. So
I have a store under my desk.
And you know what? We haven't talked about your family. So I told you you get to brag on your family, of course, because you have
yeah.
I have
three
two daughters.
Two daughters. Okay.
Two daughters.
Gotcha.
Kennedy is 19, and she's going to Maryville University and getting her nursing degree.
Awesome.
This is her first year. She was on the dean's list the first semester. She loves it.
Mm-hmm.
And but she just got her first B ever
Ever?
on an exam. Now the other one, Reagan, she's 26 and she teaches here at Central High School.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
She's biology and she's the head softball coach. She went to Quincy and to Casey to play softball. And she was the one that was like, "Ooh, yeah, I got a seat." Kennedy,
Yeah,
is
she's
like,
a little more laid back.
yes.
So
Reagan, yeah.
how did you help Kennedy cope with getting her first B ever?
Not very well.
No.
I laughed at her. I'm like, seriously, Kenna.
You're like, it's a B.
it wasn't the semester grade. It was a test.
Right.
It wasn't even. She still has an A in the class.
Right.
I'm like, calm down. I said, well, what did you do wrong? I don't know. And so, I mean, but she puts a lot of pressure on herself.
Is that the one that got the scholarship recently?
Yes.
Okay, that's what, because she just went to, okay.
Yeah, she's in Maryville. She got a few scholarships.
Good for her.
Yes. And then Reagan played softball and got scholarships for softball. So that was very helpful.
So were you at a bunch of softball games? If she was that good, then you were at a bunch of softball games traveling probably.
We looked at our hotel bills from when she
You
was in
lived
Quincy.
softball for many years.
Oh my gosh.
Do you miss it?
Well, she's coaching now. So yesterday was opening game, and I sat out there and froze to death. But we go to as many of those games as we can. My dad, he still likes to go, so I try to take him to as many things as I can.
That's good.
So yeah, that's all I got on my kids.
What about your beau?
Oh, my husband. Mm-hmm. We've been married for 30 years almost, and he's the public works director here in Centralia. He tries to keep everything going smoothly.
He's a handyman, because I remember you were, because you have him do projects, right? Because of that, when we were doing the Halloween parade, you were going to make him work for us. He didn't know it yet.
I was. I tried. Yes. Yeah. He's usually the handyman around.
Gotcha.
Fix this road. Do this. Hey, can your husband do this? I don't know. You can call him.
I'll keep him on speed dial for this year.
He was very helpful to me over the years with different projects and different problems we were having at the school.
Mr. Queen's enjoying that.
Is he? I bet he is. Call Jeff, please.
Yeah.
And he was always there to help us out, so it's appreciated.
All right. Well, hey, thank you for joining us today.
It was
I'm
fun.
glad you did it. And I want to also make a note of this. We're at 72 subscribers. I'm just going to keep putting this out there until we get 80. Have you heard what happens when we get 80 subscribers? Do you gentlemen want to tell her the whole shebang?
I really don't want to talk about it.
Why?
Mr. Bland already has met his goal, so he will run across the overpass. We're going to have the overpass.
Run?
Well,
crawl maybe.
he might mall walk across.
Hey, we can
could
get
probably
Jeff to
do
walk
that.
off the roads.
That's what we were thinking, maybe, and have the Officer Hinkle with the flashing lights. And
It's in the works. We're trying to get it up and going.
my question
but it's
is,
in the
am I
works.
going to go west, or I'd like to go east so that I can get a Whopper.
Start on the.
And I envision you going west. But don't you want your Whopper on the way back? Because if we
Subway,
get 80
I guess, or
subscribers,
Scooter's Coffee.
right, Mr. Or
How
Mr.
did you
Clark.
come up with that?
He
as
did.
your 80
Mr. Clark did.
subscribers?
I don't know where it came from.
I've never heard of anything like that.
And then Mr. Clark is going to
Because he
carry
thinks
him
I'm
back
terribly
over.
out of shape and I'll never be able to do it.
I
That's
never
why
said
he
that.
said that.
I have faith that you,
You can
both
have a
can do
wheelchair
it.
at the bottom.
Well,
Well, maybe
if
you
we,
could ride her wheelchair down the Becker.
Now that was
that would be fun.
Oh, I would be there for
just
that.
soaring down the.
That would be a lot of fun. So if we get 80 subscribers, then
And we're at
in
72.
turn, Mr. Clark has to carry me back over the overpass. Is that correct?
I don't know. I wasn't here the day that was.
What was it, Alexis?
That's it. Yeah, that is
Okay.
it. That's going to happen. So, have you subscribed yet?
I think so.
Good. Well, you get more
I
people.
see them.
Okay.
I mentioned that to the
So you
board
have to
last
go to
night, so I
YouTube
wonder
and
if there are
actually
any-
subscribe on
Oh,
YouTube.
I might not be.
They're protecting
okay.
me.
So get when you want to
When
review
they're all
this.
from me running
4?
over the overpass.
Well, we need 8 because we're at 72 right now.
Well, I've got 8 people in my family.
Perfect. We're gonna make the perfect. So that means we're gonna win this challenge, and I'm excited about it. Well, we want to thank our listeners for joining us today, and I guess we'll end. Unless
Don't
you
forget
two
to like, subscribe, hit the bell.
what are all those
stuff.
things
all
that
that
they need
good
to do?
stuff. All right.